All right, ladies and gentlemen. Today is an interesting webinar, if you want to call it a webinar, Zoom call. Um, I've known Bart on social media for many, many years. One of the things I love about Bart is me and him get into banters with people. I think I don't know if he does it. It's fun for me. I get to rack my brain. I get to see how someone thinks, and I get to respond in kind. And there's a few people that I actually can't wait to see comment. One of them is Bart. For some reason, when he responds back to people, whether it's a non-duality or principles, it gets me really to think, and it makes me question what I've thought to be the right way or the truth or whatever. And he kind of throws a wrench at it in a loving way. And so I finally emailed him. I said, Bart, I'd love to have you on this call. I'd love to see what your thoughts and ideas are. This isn't, and maybe it will be, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure it's going to be a lecture. I'm not sure if it's going to be him going to be the teacher or anything like that. This is probably going to be more of a down-to-earth conversation, I have a feeling. And are you okay with that, unless you want to be the guru?
Yeah. Anything but a guru or a teacher, a non-dual. I'm not a non-dual teacher. I'm not a three principles teacher. I know shit.
Okay, perfect.
So I don't know.
You're in good company then.
Yeah.
That's perfect. Perfect. And so before I begin, Bart, tell us how you got here. I mean, I know you're in you sound like you have a very similar path. You went the hypnosis NLP route, started learning about the principles. I'm guessing you know a little bit about non-duality as well, but tell us a little bit of your journey.
Oh, it's been a long journey. I guess as long as I can remember, I've been searching and looking for some answers. And I guess the first thing I can remember is like a 10-year-old sitting in my sleeping room, in my bedroom, and wondering if this waking state that we're talking in right now, right, if that isn't a dream, and how would I know? And I guess that's the first me remembering this body system, looking for answers. And then a long story short, I rolled into NLP at the turn of the century, and I was in those online Facebook groups and stuff like that, and Jamie Smart was in there as well. And somewhere around 2007, 8, 9, somewhere there, he started talking about three principles. And the funny thing was, I thought, oh, that's interesting. So I'm gonna look up that stuff online, and I landed on that website, Citibank's website back then. But it looked like a website built in the 1970s or something like that. It looked that dated. So I discarded it, and somehow the conversation. I was in this group with Joseph Riggio, and Jürgen was there. It was like a small group of change agents, and somehow the conversation kept coming back somehow. And then around 2010, 2011, I capitulated. I said, okay, let's look into the three principles, and then, yeah, things start to change. So that's about it. So it's we all got to blame Jamie.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So
yeah, similar thing with me too. That's funny that's how it worked. What did you find different with the three principles? I'm curious.
Oh man, I was wondering that today, and I really don't know, because I was doing like this NLP shit stuff, which might look for some people like from the outside like magic. You can change people very quickly, from depressed to happy, from phobias to no phobias ever existed and stuff like that. And so I was very first like fighting this. So what's the difference? This 3P talk. So the results looked just the same as we got through NLP or through any other methodology that I used. So I'm not sure what shifted. Like I got like the simplicity, probably, like a simple framework that I could filter all the rest that I knew through, whether it was like NLP or whether it was like you know, back at the turn of the century, I did some meditation courses with Deepak Chopra around your corner I told you about, and even that, all that stuff that got filtered through the filter of the 3 principles, through the framework. I guess I like the framework and the ease and the calm. You know, I was stuck in the NLP field and was like egos. This is better than this and this. And we were doing that. We were having fun discussing what technique, what model was was better or was more useful. And when I got into the people, when I get to know people in the 3P community, it was more friendly. It was more, people were more listening, were opener, and I guess that attracted me. So, and I stick to that. And then I went through like a hell of a circle when I through shifting from a technique-based approach in helping clients and helping people to a principles-based approach, and that took me like a couple of years to make that shift.
Yeah, I'm guessing you were doing a hybrid, like many of us. It's like I kind of get
Yeah.
right,
It's
and
funny,
then
because we might come back to that later on.
yeah, I'll
Yeah.
talk a little bit about that myself too. So one thing that I'm noticing in our community is, I guess we can both talk about it, is non-duality is kind of making a comeback in a sense.
Yeah.
Not that it was ever gone; it was probably one of the original things
Mm.
that many of us followed, and it's been around for a very long time. But it's getting an interest in our 3 principles community. Do you see that as a good thing, as a bad thing? Is it beneficial, or you don't see it as, uh, or is it like what do you see when you respond? I see you responding a lot of times, and
So,
like
okay.
I'd love to hear your thoughts on non-duality in our community.
I'm going to give you a backstory because everything, you know, the post you put in the event page thing. I will give you a backstory to that. So throughout 2010, 2000, I started to learn of the principles, and I never stopped like looking, searching, right? So I kept reading and stuff like that. And one of the authors I kept reading was a non-dual teacher, Fred Davis, and some people know them. He's like a very straightforward non-dual teacher. And last year, I guess around this time last year, I was reading this book of him, and suddenly the world stopped. And me, everything was like, and a few moments later, the I amness and me and my separate self and stuff came rushing in, and we're trying to make sense of that experience. And together with that, a ton of insights came along about how we function and what this search is all about. And it might be interesting to talk about a couple of those things, because that will give a framework about what I'm going to say, or I'm going to take a long way round to answer what I think about non-duality. So I had this experience, and I tried to make sense of, and basically it was like a fundamental non-experience. and my mind was trying to make sense of that. And the first thing that done is that the one, me, Bart, who has been looking for answers, could never get what I just saw. And it was like the, and it's hard for me to tell because I never talk about this stuff. I don't teach, so I'm a bit looking for words. So the my character tried to make sense of that experience, which was basically a non-experience. And you could say that was sort of like, I'm going to try to use metaphors, but the metaphors don't do it. Don't say what it is, because that's not it. The metaphors or the words are not going to be it. But that's what we're left with the language and the metaphors. So it was like a sort of a holder of the universe that I landed in. It was like if you have the yin and yang symbol, right? It was like that what holds those two things together. That what yin and yang appears into. Sometimes I call it the eternal now of the now, not the now on a timeline, but because the time is sort of appearing in that what I saw. If that makes sense.
Yep.
So on one hand, you could say, to keep coming back to your story, it was like a very non-dual experience, but I would not call it a non-dual experience. I wouldn't call it true nature, because it was like for me, it was like a fundamental non-experience. It was not a bliss experience or not anything of that. It was like the world was away, I was away, nothing was happening. There was no awareness, nothing going on. Anyway, so what I saw is that basically from that on, a step down is where all the insights came flushing in, and that I could not get what I was looking for. I could not get that non-dual state, or that true nature, or that supreme state, what we're all talking about. And at the same time, nobody else could. The one who is seeking cannot understand or cannot get what it's seeking, and will never get that, because it's out of the dream. But anything we do in this life is in the dream. And you can sit meditating your whole life, or you can do neti your whole life, or look into the principles. It will not get it. It would not make a difference. What we do in this dream thingy, and I call it a dream because everyone calls it a dream. It's not. It would not be my words, because I would rather call it reality. This is all that we got, right? The other thing that we talk about, but not really can understand, we cannot understand. The body minds cannot get that. What's called true reality or true nature or whatever. It's for most a theory, and for not many get a grasp of that or get a glimmer of that. And to come back to the non-duality, because we got like two different kind of approaches. They're basically doing the same thing. And the one is, the three principles is, it gives you a framework of that psychologically understanding and psychologically functioning. But non-duality claims it does not do that. It does it's spiritual or whatever. But in reality, it's within the dream. It's within the boundaries of the illusion. And that what they're talking about, or what is being talked about, is very rarely ever touched upon. And it's not touched upon through the neti-neti, or through the meditation, or through the pointings, because you cannot point to it. It's like sits in one of his tapes, is the great nothingness. And it's literally the great nothingness. It's prior to consciousness. And what the non-dual teachings are doing at this moment, because there are variations of non-dual teaching. There's not one non-dual teaching. But non-dual teachings are doing, they're often pointing at direct experience, to look at the oneness, right? But the direct experience is still within the dream. And if you keep looking to the direct experience, to the I amness, you will not get prior to the I amness. And that's what it's funny, because after the experience a year ago, I looked into, I tried to make sense of what happened, because it was totally unlike what I thought it would be. We have all concepts of awakening and stuff like that, and it's all about it. It wasn't that. It wasn't like that. All the concepts that I thought it would be. And there's not a few, because it was like I said, it was like a total non-experience. And there's not a few who are talking about that. They all talk, it's about true nature. And I think, yeah, this was non-experience. Is that true nature? Is that all consciousness? No, there was no awareness going. There was nothing to be aware of going on. There was no consciousness going on. And Sid talked about that, but in very small terms. He talked often about the allness and the isness. And mostly all his pointings were within the isness, and the isness is that what is form, basically the form and the formless, and got the form and the formless, and the allness is just holding that, like I said earlier, the yin and the yang, right? And but if you call it God, or you call it allness, or whatever, is whole. It's a metaphor, because that's not how it is, but that's what I try to, if it makes sense to you guys. The allness and the isness. The allness is holding the isness. And the isness, that is the only thing that we can experience. We cannot experience the allness. The moment that the beingness rises, even before the body, the life rises, the pulsation of the universe, or consciousness, or whatever you want to call it, right? Some call it pulsation, some call it pure love, some call it, right? But Sid eventually pointed that, and in my opinion, he saw in his awakening moment, was prior to that. He saw prior to principles. He saw prior to consciousness, and I do not mean the formulation of principles, or not the theory of principles. No, he fundamentally saw before consciousness, before life. In some of his tapes, he slightly points to that. Look before life. Look in, basically, what you could call it the ultimate death. And that's not what we want to hear. We want to be consciousness. We want to be that, and the non-dual route that's been taken by many, not only in this, is that I'm not the body, but I'm consciousness. It's still a subtle ego thingy, and it's that calm. I'm not the body. Okay, I'm not the body. I get that. But now I'm consciousness. I'm awareness. I'm free. I'm perfect. I'm whatever. Right? I'm one. We're one. I'm not two. It's still that. like consciousness attaching to something in the form. And when I call something in the form, is both the form and the formless. It's the moment that consciousness arises out of the great nothingness, as Sid called it. Then we're lost already. It's even long before we are born. Often in this community, it's talked about we see oneness till the age of 2 or 3, and from then on, thought divides everything, it separates everything, and we need to go back. But it's even far before that the separation starts. The separation starts with the born of the consciousness out of the nothingness, and so. But we cannot point to that. We cannot talk about that. You cannot point to it, and you cannot miss it at the same time. It's both and the thing that they're really looking for, but not getting into when you're taking the non-dual route, is prior to consciousness. But they land in their teachings on I'm consciousness, or there's only consciousness. And literally, that's true. But when there's a sense of consciousness, you already have two. Basically, the sense of consciousness appearing in your system, or the sense of consciousness appearing in consciousness, is already separations. So in this dream life world, whatever you want to call it, or this reality, or whatever you prefer, you cannot escape separation, because that's what it is. When there's I am vibrating, that what we're looking for, the aliveness, that sense of fundamental peace, that's already separated from what is. So coming back to, I'm trying to answer. I'm still. I hope I'm still with you guys, or you guys are with me, whatever you want to call it. So basically, we are only left with a psychologically maturing system. In the everything that is experienced is like this, psychologically functioning, and it's not. We can call it spiritual, but that's, I think, beside the point. Because it's in the dream. If you really want to talk about psychological understanding, you've got to pass the dream. But that's not something we can grasp. That's not something we can talk about, because it's not understood. It cannot be understood by the one who's trying to understand it. So what we end up with is basically two of the same things, trying to get from that love back to that love. But it's like a pattern in life where or a pattern in this dream life, where how would you say it, is the same like the ego forming. It's like fundamental love forms an ego and expands back into fundamental love. But that's all, that pattern is all happening in the dream. And that was, in my opinion, that's what was Sid pointing to. The love in the dream, the love in the isness. Because prior to that, there's no love. There's no non-dual and there's no dual. There's no oneness, there's not two-ness, there's not. It's the best thing I think we can say is the great nothingness, as Sid called it. And he was always saying, look prior to life, look before life. And before life is before consciousness, because consciousness is life. So you get basically, not whether it's non-dual or whether it's three principles, it doesn't matter. But now we got distracted. This community gets distracted by saying we cannot use separate realities. No, that's not wrong. Or we cannot use insight. And it's so totally missing the point, because it's not about that. It was never about that. And it's a bit sad that people are getting distracted by, oh no, it's not about separate realities. Sid was mistaken in that when he said separate realities. No, you get to go back to the old original Sid, which is a funny idea, because not any one teacher, if you ask them, hey man, your stuff that you're doing now, you missed it. Go back to what you were teaching about 5 years ago, 10 years ago, then you got it. Now you lost it. No. But now we can, by one who saw more than all of us, we can say that about him. It's a distraction. It's bullshit. Because it's so next to the point. It's trying to create a narrative, not seeing that there's no escaping to the dream. Okay, now I'm gonna stop talking. If that makes sense. If that makes sense.
It did. I went in and out. Where I'm like, oh, I'm getting it, and then I went, holy crap! I'm back to my intellectual mind. One thing that I had one of my good close friends when I was younger had two sisters, and they both would sleepwalk. Right? They would sleepwalk, and I'm just imagining both of them sleepwalking, getting together. One is arguing non-duality, one's arguing three principles, and they're in their sleep debating which one is making them more awake. And I'm like, I don't know why that just came to me. And me on the outside going, you guys both wake up. You guys are both in the same dream. What are you guys doing? I want to do that. And for some reason, this yin and yang thing that you talked about, the idea who's holding this container of form and formless? That to me is actually brilliant. What's the container to even come up with the concept of, well, this is form and we're talking about the formless? Both of them are in some sort of container that we're discussing. And I guess that container is beyond both.
It's beyond both. And that is, you cannot get there. The only thing that can happen is that you're graced upon seeing that. And that's what most enlightening experiences are. It's not the doing of that separate self or that body mind or whatever you want to call it. There are two things here. There's a maturing of the ego, and whatever you do, if it's three principles or if it's non-duality or it's NLP or whatever, I got so much more, and that's why I said earlier, we might come back to it, because I got so much more appreciation for whatever people think they want to do and need to do, whether that's three principles or that's a technique or that's a meditation or that's praying or whatever, or that's the non-dual route, right? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. There's no, the illusion is, and it's a dream within a dream, that the one, if you follow one path, you're gonna see more. You're gonna wake up, or you're gonna, and no, that's not happening. And that's why most awakenings, whether it's Sid or Eckhart Tolle or Byron Katie or the well-known teachers, right? Whether it's some of the old sages, it hit them out of the blue. It was not the result of a practice. There are not many people who get there with practice, because basically you cannot get there with practice. What you can do with practice is silence the mind, work out body-mind tendencies, and that's very worthwhile to do. And dismissing that, what is often done in the non-dual and even this three principles field, keeps ego tendencies still showing up. And that's why, and you know, and not so much in this field, but in three principles field, there are so many teachers who are doing more harm to people than helping them, which is suddenly a word that we cannot use anymore, helping, because we can't help. Which, and that's so funny. And I wonder why we get distracted by that, because the ones who know, the ones who really know, are not the ones who are teaching. And that might be a difficult thing to get. But the yanis, as they call them, they are mostly not teaching, because it doesn't make sense to teach something that can be taught or that cannot be pointed towards. So I'm not sure where I'm going.
Yeah, you know, I did want to, you know, what came to me, going back to some of the things you're saying about prior to love and prior to, one of the things I've noticed, Rupert Spira, I believe, had, he loves his metaphors and analogies. I actually really like Rupert. You know, I go back and forth with, and he gets me to think, you know, if anything. But one thing that I see that gets floated around is the idea of King Lear, that if I became King Lear, and I have struggles as King Lear, then the issue is that I will, you know, if King Lear says, "Look, I lost my kingdom," and I go, "Hey, but you're not King Lear," like I have to remind him who he is, right? And on the surface, that actually made a lot of sense. I'm like, oh, I see. I'm playing a role called Amir, so that's what's happening. But then I went, wait a minute. That metaphor only makes sense to an extent, because Rupert Spira is trying to say that you need to get out of that self while he's acting as Rupert Spira still.
Yeah.
So he can't get out of his own analogy, because when you're using the analogy to say that person is not King Lear, who's saying that? The person that's acting like Rupert Spira or Amir Karkudi. So people are in the metaphor within the metaphor, trying to tell people that that's what we're doing. In other words, you can't get out of it.
No, you can't.
Like your metaphor of King Lear is no different than my metaphor with Amir. And just because you know the metaphor doesn't stop you from being or acting like the person you're trying to not be. And I don't know, that's something for me that kind of like went, well, if I can't stop being an actor, why don't I enjoy the play? Like, why are people so ready to jump out of the act? Like, what is
it's
do you know what I'm saying? I don't know if
yeah,
that
I
makes
know
sense.
what you're saying, and it's like this sense of seeking. There's
Yeah,
this,
and the secret, yes, that's what it is. What I'm saying.
and we're seeking, and what we should realize is that the secret will never find. And calling off the search is the best thing you could ever do for yourself. Because the search is it's like a tendency. It's like that is almost ingrained into life. And some might say, no, it's not. I'm not seeking for answers. Or a better life or what. I'm just curious. But it's the same. It's that same energy, right? And it gives a form of aliveness. Because if you would stop seeking, if you would call off the search, it will mean a certain death. And and that's the funny thing. We keep in this whole exploration and explore. And I read something. We've been looking for matter, and scientists keep finding like smaller and smaller bits. First we had cells, and then atoms, and then all that other smaller and smaller bit. But the act of looking for, they will keep finding smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller stuff. The search will be endless. And the same thing happens with exploring or trying to get the principles, whether it is, or it's like that, searching for answers. And you will find something, but that will never solve give a
Satisfy. I think it
satisfy.
would never.
Yeah,
Yeah, it'll never
that would
satisfy.
never satisfy the searching. So you will keep finding more and more and more and more. And there's more to see in consciousness, and there's less to, and then you get this. I'm conscious. I'm not the self. I'm conscious. I'm not the self. I can see that better. I can see it better until I land into unconsciousness, and unconsciousness is just I'm the self. It's the same thing, and then the whole seeking starts over. And there's, I'm not sure if I ever said that, but I think I heard that. Maybe I imagine it. Is that turn around and look inwards, he said. But what we should turn around from the seeking. Because it's the seeking that gives, whether you call it, oh, it's my curiosity, or it's seeking for a better life, it's the same thing. Don't fool yourself, because many people say, oh no, I'm just curious about how this thing works. No, is that still the same? And it's known because it's ingrained in the I amness, in the already the separation. But the separation doesn't want to die. It keeps, that's what life is. Yeah. It tries to find a way to find life. It tries to find a way to find love, because that's what it really think it is. But that is just the first appearance from out of the great nothingness. And what really God is, and all that, and whatever you want to call it, is the great nothingness. And the great nothingness doesn't know it's the great nothingness. There's nothing to know there.
We have a question from
Yeah.
Rui, and then I also have another. I'll go to him live, and then I have a question that was written to me privately that we can discuss as well.
Yes, sure.
Lower your hand. Oh.
Hey there.
There you are. What's up, my man?
Hi, good. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
I can hear you.
You look good too, man. You look sharp today. Welcome.
Thanks. So yeah, just basically on what you were saying before, and this is something that came more and more to me lately about that endless exploration or endless seeking, and I started seeing more as endless creation, because endless exploration, it assumes there's something there to explore, to find. But what I've seen, and again, I'm biased because I can only use my experience, is that exploration I call exploration was actually something I created that wasn't there. Like the true principles, my perspective now, and the way. Oh, sorry. Is unstable. I just disconnected the camera because I think my connection gets really low.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I don't know. Did you hear what I said, or it was cut, or?
Rui, it broke up on my end. I'm not sure what the rest heard, but on my end it broke up. So I didn't really get what you were saying.
Okay.
Try again. It seems to be better now.
Okay, I'll try to do very quickly then. So it's basically the suggestion of the exploration or the seeking, not actually being something to find, but something you actually.
Ru, your phone is not working. Your phone is not working, bud. All right, we had to cut Rui out because I could not understand him. Let's get Fiona wants to get on. Sorry, Rui, your phone was going in and out. So let's get Fiona on if you don't mind, and then we do have a question from Nikki as well. Miss Fiona.
Hi, thanks, Amir. Hi, Bart. Never met you before. So I'd just like you to expand upon why you think some of the teachers aren't helping.
I'm not sure I said that. But can you explain what you heard me saying?
Okay, what I think I heard you say was that, you know, some of the people that are out there teaching are not helping. I could be wrong, but I think that's what I heard you say.
I don't think I said that. I said I think everyone is helping. Everyone is helping someone. We can say. Okay, I see. I heard the same. It's definitely not what I meant. There's I think what you're referring to is when I said there are ego tendencies showing up in people, and there's ego tendencies showing up in teachers as well. But in the non-dual field, they get sort of discarded or not handled. So for some teachers, it keeps showing up, and some of them have built communities that were not really healthy. That doesn't mean, in essence, that there weren't people being helped, but what I'm saying is by what they taught. But the whole community they built, or the contradictionary act that they sometimes show up with, is not really helping. If that makes sense.
Can you say more about that contradictory act that they're showing up with?
Yeah. There are, but I think it's a distraction. It's a distraction. Even this, because it's not about. Teaching other people or teaching other teachers. I just say there's tendencies in us, and when you go full unconsciousness, it sometimes tends not to be regarded at, even though Ramana and the old sages pointed out that those things need to be taken care of in the form, right? If that answers sort of your question.
Yeah, I think it's. I was on a webinar, not going to mention any names, with somebody, and they were selling an amazing program, and then they mentioned that they had a lot of blind spots. And when I'm with people, you know, I share the 3 principles with them, but I'm quite transparent in, there's some areas of my life where I don't see it, and that's something that I contemplate quite a lot, you know, and is my understanding intellectual rather than experiential, which But you know, the question of I don't see it in some areas, one particular area, that's a question I often ask myself. What's going on with that? So that's where the question came from. It wasn't
Okay.
about anyone down or criticizing at all.
No, I think the only thing that we can get aware of is our own ego tendencies. But you know, the ego tendencies are just they appear like anything else appears.
Yeah.
And there are two ways we can go with that. It's like the tree appearing in the garden, right? And I don't see ego different than the tree appearing in the garden and the ego appearing, and my ego tendencies appearing. But I care for the tree in the garden, and I might, in a different way, care for my ego tendencies by helping them to open up, rather than to, right? And by dismissing them or trying to kill them, but to everyone their own path. To everyone their own path.
Okay. I hear what you're saying.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So should we go back to Rui's question?
Yeah. Basically, I was suggesting that the endless exploration and endless seeking is in fact an endless creation. We are creating, not finding. Oh, that's interesting. That's a cool way. We are creating, not finding. For me, it's like, yeah. For me, 10 years ago, there was no spiritual exploration to do because those ideas and concepts were not planted in me. But once I started listening and reading spiritual vocabulary, I started creating that in me. So did I find it or did I create it? It's good. It's great.
Yeah.
It's a good way to put it.
I've nothing to add to that.
No, that's pretty brilliant. It's funny because, you know, bringing it down to earth for me, when people ask me, what do I teach then? You know, I work at a recovery center. I mean, am I teaching the principles? No, I don't teach the principles. I teach people that the more you get into concepts, the more problems you will find, including the principles. And that's why in our community, now people are feeling unresolved because they want to share the principles properly. They're not sharing the principles improperly. They're trying to find juice from an abstraction, from a concept.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm seeing. So when someone is coming to me in my recovery center, I'm resolve them, or I'm trying to show them that what you're working with is abstractions. There's nothing wrong with that. Not saying that's kind of what we're stuck with, and that's okay. But if you know what you're playing with, it just makes it a little bit easier. That's all it is to me. And so when someone comes to me and says, in our community, you know, how do I share the principles? My first question, why would you want to? Because they think sharing the principles will alleviate somebody else's pain. I've never shared the principles and alleviated anybody's pain. But what I've done is when someone has seen that their abstractions has caused them endless pain, something drops when they stop worrying about that abstraction. And I think that's what Sid was pointing to when he called it the formless or the form. He was just saying this energy is creating an abstraction that you're playing really heavy on. That's what I thought. That's what I at least see. And maybe.
Yeah, I think it brilliantly, your last sentence brilliantly sums up what it's about. But we make it so complex. What was the funny thing is that from where I'm sitting, even Sid was making it. When I listen even to his old tapes now, I went through this stage when three principles. Oh wow, 2010 or something. Oh cool, Sid. And I was going like, what the fuck is he talking about? What the fuck is? And then there came this moment that I thought I sort of got it right. And now after last year, I think he's making it so fucking complicated. It's a laugh. It's a laugh, and it's nobody's fault. But it comes with the act of teaching, trying to teach that what can be taught. And I think we should have less teachers and less explorers. And you know, if I could teach this shit, I would do that. But it cannot be taught. That what life is cannot be taught. Why the fuck are we trying to teach something that is already?
So in your opinion, then, man, this went really fast. Why are people struggling then? There is a struggle. There is a struggle that I see. There is.
It's a, you know, very simple. What I see is when Sid pointed to love, I think he was right. He pointed to the I amness and the first rise, and it goes from openness to constriction, and if you're lucky, or the end of life, more back to openness, right? And it's that movement. It's that movement. It's what some might call karma, and the flow from the formless to the very restricted form back to the formless. And we take the form so fucking serious, and that's the only thing that we're too fucking serious. We take our teachings too fucking serious, and now we got very serious teachers, because that's the only truth that there is out there. And I think you're doing that. What I hear you talking so often about is sitting with people and not teaching them. And you know, I love coaching, and I love pointing to. Oh, I love my whiteboard, right? But and it's helping to a certain degree to untangle that, to untangle that constriction. But it just gets. It's the natural. You know, it's the natural movement. Open to constricted to open. No ego, oneness to separation to whatever you want to call it, back to oneness. And we're sitting next to that thinking we can add something to that, because we take our thinking so fucking serious. We take our thinking as teachers so fucking serious, and the ones who are experience the problem are taking their thinking and thoughts and experience, and this experience is so fucking real. And it doesn't matter if that's help, I'm dying from cancer, or help or not help, oh yay, I'm consciousness. It's the fucking same grip. Even you think you're doing that, it's the same. I'm consciousness now. And it's the same tendency. But don't, the thing is that we make something out of that. We make too much out of that. We make too much out of that natural movement, that natural circle. So, and when there's constriction, we think, oh, it's a problem, so we have problems. No, it's not. It's just that what happens. The up and, you know, that flow, nothing more.
Nikki has a question for you to the same line. That's why I'm going to ask you this right now. Are you saying that enlightenment does not itself heal the ego or personality, and that will show up in teachers or us, and so the principles of helping us to get healthier can help let go of the searching? Oh, so that's a good. So in other words, knowing, you know, when you're getting enlightened or like that, that's kind of what the principles did for me. That's why we laughed in the beginning of this call. I said, once I kind of got a glimpse of the principles, all my books, I give them away. It just stopped making sense. So can knowing the principles allow you to let go of the searching?
Yeah,
that's a great question. Actually,
that's good. I'm gonna first answer that and then go back to our first sentence. I think the framework of the principles can help people open up, right? I'm not sure if there are many who stop the search by doing that. I don't see many people in this field, and probably they're not in the online community. Those who did, they're just living their ordinary lives out there. And those who search are still in the community. And it's not and don't get me wrong, it's not wrong to be searching, or it's not less to be searching. It's not, it's, but just what I think shows up. And I think the searching will stop when you realize that the tendency of searching is that what gives you that unease. There's this constant looking for something, feeling like you're missing something. Either it's getting more out of the principles or getting more out of life or whatever. There's this constant, right? There's not this is okay, right? I think principles can, and it depends on the teacher and depends where you're at. But I think it's going to be a great help, even though I don't see many people getting there. With that said, by the invitation that some are doing to keep exploring, it's the invitation to keep searching, because you will not get there, and only the illusion is created and the narrative is created that you will get there by keep exploring, but that's not it. That's are you saying that to get back to Nikki's question, are you saying that enlightenment does not of itself heal the ego or personality, and that will show up in teachers or us? Yes, because enlightenment is not about the ego or the personality. It has nothing to do with the ego and the personality. Only the one who's looking for enlightenment, the ego and the personality, thinks that it's about that, but it's not about that. Just whether whether you're a separate self or not, or whether you see yourself not as a separate self or try to get you through seeing the separate, it has nothing to do with waking up. Because waking up is like what happened to me, and I'm not sure. I'm not saying I'm awake. I only say I've seen this glimpse, which was not a glimpse, but something beyond that. What our current day experience, and which in itself means nothing. Really, it means nothing. It's so ordinary, and there's no meaning to get from that. Yeah, my ego wants to say, yeah, I am enlightened. Why? That's blah, 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 blah. But that's what we constantly do. No, what I'm saying is that it's not the ego or the separate self that awakes, or the body-mind that awakes. It's consciousness flowing back into itself. At first using this body-mind as a mirror to see itself through, and then flowing further back into the abyss, to create nothingness. It's the wave landing in the ocean, whatever. But there's whatever metaphor, you cannot explain it. You cannot explain it. But it has not the body-mind tendencies, and that what we experience, the I amness in form, still has that same patterns built in. There might be a bit more understanding, and might be a bit more awareness of those patterns, so that the ego patterns doesn't play out fully. But awakening itself does do nothing for you. It's like they say, Before awakening, you chop wood and you carry water, and after awakening, you do exactly the same. Nothing happened. In awakening, nothing happens. There's nothing more, nothing to see there, nothing to there's nothing to understand there. But in this dream, we can understand, and a bit of more love and understanding is that what will take the ego away. But that has nothing to do with awakening. Sid never taught awakening. All the other teachers, like Kyron Beatty, or how you call it?
Byron Katie?
Byron Katie, exactly. And Eckhart Tolle, they're teaching a psychologically functioning model. They're not teaching awakening. What they're teaching is how this body mind can get a bit out of the ego cramp, if that makes sense. I hope that answered your question, Nikki. I'm not sure where she is.
I actually like Kyron Beatty. That's the best thing I've ever heard, actually. Kyron Beatty. I'm going to use that. That's going to be my alter ego. Sid was a true teacher and then changed into a marketing thing. Wow, that's
working.
That's a little rough, but all right.
Sid was a true teacher and then changed it into. I think that's the narrative that some are selling you, but that's not. Sid till the last day. There's the ultimate answer. I think it's one of his last recordings for the Three Principles School. If you listen to that,
it's incredible.
If you think that's in your older day, I think that's a narrative that's been sold. It's not. Because Sid was from day one. If you read Beyond Belief, the Island of Knowledge, it's already about thought. Is already in there talking about thought, and that's the earliest recording of Sid doing what he did. He's already talking about his psychological functioning. So I think he saw more than the non-dual teachers that haven't seen what he saw. That what he saw can be taught, can even be pointed at. But what can be done is helping people, even if you don't believe there are others or whatever. People in this appearance help each other to live more in love and understanding, as he said. That's my opinion.
Yeah, and
Lynn, who wrote that?
What was Sid's last book? I think you're talking about the video, right?
Yeah, I'm talking. The ultimate answer is
you can go on Amazon. Actually, the ultimate answer. It's on Amazon as a download.
It's even on YouTube. I think there's a 40-minute.
Is it
with Elsie and?
Yes, Chip.
With Elsie and Chip.
Yeah.
And that was from 2008, 2009, a couple of months before he died.
That's right. So, and we have one more question. I think who was just on, and then we're a little bit over, but if you guys are Terry, did you want to say something?
I didn't actually.
Oh, you did? Oh, okay. I saw you popped on, so I didn't know.
Oh, no, I really appreciate this conversation in so many ways. I think that one of the analogies I've always liked is the screen analogy in the movies on the screen, and taking it a step further that into this nothingness of it's all screen.
Yeah.
It's like the yin yang, that it's all ocean. So it's you've been talking about stuff that's really been resonating with me. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And I wanted to say one last bit, and then I will give it to you to see where people can find you, what you're up to, how they can connect. If you guys saw my three principles, I made a post calendar of all the men of the principles. If you saw, I put the face on different bodies of bodybuilders. And I had actually one very interesting email. One of the emails I got was that I'm making a comedy out of something that needs to be serious. So I responded back. I said, well, what needs to be serious? They said, well, I have some serious problems and I need some serious answers. And when you make things light like that, you're taken away from me trying to figure out what my problem is, because I've really been struggling with these problems. And I just wrote back, I said, maybe just that is the problem. The fact that you're looking for a serious answer for a problem that looks so serious. And a couple days later, I got a happy face. But I think that's what I think Bart is trying to point to. I think even Terry is, when you start to see it, it is actually very comical. When you start to see how seriously we're taking the principles, and it's turning into this, and they're teaching it the wrong way, and it's non-duality, it's that. Sometimes you just need a calendar to just laugh about what we're doing with this venture of life in of itself, right? Because if you can't get out of this game, might as well enjoy it. And Bart, I think that's what I've even heard from all this is you're going to go through the constriction and in and out and in and out. And man, what a wonderful life that I can have both and all. To be the screen within the screen within the screen, moving folders that really means a lot. That to me is, I think, what this is about. And Bart, any last words before we leave?
I think you said it brilliantly. It's Sid called it out as well. Is that if you're thinking serious, or whatever. I can't even remember the quote is, but if you're thinking serious, life is serious. So let's have a bit more fun. And that's all. Well, it's a lesson I got to learn every day. I'm glad I've young children who remind me of not taking life so fucking serious. Because there's nothing more to that. It's funny because I'm talking about him and there is... Thomas, kom je dag zeggen? Ik ben even nog bezig.
Hey.
Ze spreken Engels. Moet je iets vragen? Moet je iets vragen?
Nee.
Oké. Ik ben direct om 5 minuten.
Laten zien.
Ah ja, direct. Maar ik ben direct. Oké? All right? Say bye.
Ja.
One last thing before we leave. I actually reread, and I think Lynn, before, she said Sid was a true teacher, then changed into a marketing thing. And correct me if I'm wrong, Lynn, I think you're saying the people that took it turned into a marketing thing. I don't think Sid was a terrible marketer. He didn't have any good funnels or webinars. I think if you're saying that, I do agree that Sid was pointing to something, then the people that took it and made it into a forum and made it into all sorts of, whether it was marketing, whether it was, this is the single paradigm, the consciousness only way. So if that's what you're saying, Lynn, I'm with you on that. Yes. Okay. Yes, exactly. Okay, good.
Okay,
I felt, because I was actually going to say something, because I'm like, I don't think she's talking about Sid turned it into a marketing thing. I think the people that took it, and again, they took a concept and an abstraction when he was pointing the opposite way, and they made something out of it, and then it became a problem then, right? And then they took something, an abstraction, and said, now if you learn this abstraction from me, I can actually help your abstraction with a different one. I think that's why a lot of people are spinning in their wheels in the principles community. And I think that's what I think Lynn was pointing to.
Yes, and don't be mistaken. Lynn, first, sorry for us misunderstanding what you wrote, because we were eager to jump in, both me and Amir. But
it was fun beating up on Lynn. I'll be the first to admit. But go ahead.
Don't mistake that what happened, the marketing, but now people are using marketing to diss the marketing.
Yes, that's right.
So it's all distraction. It's all distraction.
It's all distraction. That's correct. It's all distraction.
Let's, if you want to get back to, start listening to whoever you want to listen to. Start listening to whatever teacher that makes sense to you, but don't get distracted by the play they're playing. Listen to where they might be pointing, or if that makes sense to you. Well, I think there's nothing more to say.
Yeah, I think they're all just good musicians, and it's depending on what you want to hear, right? What song sounds good for you. But if it sounds like more than a song, you're missing the point. I think that's what it is. I think that's
what was one thing I want to say, because that's often said in those marketing messages, that the 3 principles framework and all that, and all those old teachers did not get that. But I think did not get what Sid was really talking about. But what they got, they did tremendous, amazing work, and I think we're missing or ignoring the power of all the teachings that have been done by previous teachers, by all teachers, and what has been done in prisons has been done in the Modelo thing and the communities. Don't let us be fooled that wasn't valuable, that wasn't helping people, because it was like helping everyone there at the best. And that's what we're doing. We're doing the best that we can, nothing more. So don't be fooled that what you're doing is wrong, or shouldn't be done, or should be done in a different way, or should be, because that ignites that searching in you, and you will not find an answer. You'll find the same issue going on there for all. Just keep doing what you do.
Awesome. And how can people find you, Bart?
Just through Facebook. Send me a message.
Oh, that was easy.
Facebook.
Okay, Facebook, send them a message. BartLoos.com, I believe, as well, and KyronBeatty.com if you need to go on.
Yeah, and Eckhart Tolle. And if there's one teacher that makes sense to me,
Amir Karkouti. Thank you so much. All right, folks, he's got to go. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
Aside of Amir, is the only one that talks about in my opinion, prior to consciousness and all that, is Nisargadatta.
Nisargadatta Maharaj? Who?
Yeah, and he has a couple of books out after he passed, prior to consciousness and the absolute, and that's all talking about that same thing, but more elegantly and more than I can.
I'm gonna write it down. Nisar.
It might be totally over your head for people or whatever, but for me, that makes he makes the most sense to me.
I think that's how you spell it, Nisargadatta Maharaj.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So,
and
just for you guys, just so you know, he used to work at a liquor store, I believe, selling cigarettes or something.
He was like a chain smoking, very fierce.
Yeah, but folks, thanks so much. This has been fascinating. This has been cool.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome, and thank you for everyone that joined. And we'll see where it goes from here. Maybe we'll do round 2.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful day.
Bye bye.
Take care. Bye.